Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, the father of economics. It's written, this e-book was created with street lib right, whatever, as you can read. And it is by Simplicissimus Book Farms. And it is by UUID, BD, and all these numbers. These are the table of contents. So it has book 1 with 11 chapters. Chapter 1 is the division of labor. Second, the principle, which covers occasion to the division of labor. Chapter 4 on the origin and the use of money. Chapter 5 of the real and nominal price of commodities. Then chapter 6 of the component part of the price of commodities, etc. Then chapter 11 is of the rent of land. And then you have book 2. This has 5 chapters. Here it starts with book 2 is of the nature, accumulation, and employment of stock. It is introduction, chapter 1 of division of stock, etc. Then we have what is the book 3 of the different progress of opulence in different nations. So that is book 3. Somewhere the drums are being played. So chapter 1 is of the national progress of opulence. Chapter 2 of the discouragement of agriculture in the ancient state of Europe after the fall of the Roman Empire. Chapter 3 of the rise and progress of cities and towns after the fall of the Roman Empire. Chapter 4, how the commerce of towns contributed to the improvement of the country. And then book 4 is of systems of political economy. Chapter 1 of the principle of the commercial or mercantile system. Chapter 2 of restraints upon importation from foreign countries of such goods as can be produced at home. Chapter 4 of drawbacks. Chapter 5 of bounties. Chapter 6 of the treaties of commerce. Chapter 7 of colonies. Chapter 8, conclusion of the mercantile system. And of course, you have the appendix to book 4. And then book 5, no heading, just some chapters are given. So all in all, it's a very interesting book. Like, for example, I'll just read a little from here. The book 1 of the causes of improvements in productive powers of labor and of the order according to which its produce is naturally distributed among the different ranks of the people. So it has an introduction. The book has lovely, I mean, it's a real nice thick book. Look at that, all white pages, and look at the print. It's very comfortable to read, and it's really good. You feel nice turning the pages to read them. Sort of. That is the back cover. That's the ISBN for you. So it's the second chapter I think I'm reading from that. He writes, human beings are driven by self-interest in their quest for wealth. This is what I got from when I read the chapter, that perhaps this thought led Adam Smith to define economics as a science of wealth. A human being, in bettering his self-interest, while he's bettering his self-interest, he betters the interest of the society or the people around him. And I'm going to read from the quote from the book. It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own self-interest. We address ourselves not to their humanity, but to their self-love, and never talk to them of our own necessities, but of their advantages. Nobody, so this is what he writes, like, and I further read, as it is by treaty, by barter, and by purchase that we obtain from one another the greater part of those mutual good offices which we stand in need of, so it is this same trucking disposition which originally gives occasion to the division of labor. In a tribe of hunters or shepherds, a particular person makes bows and arrows, for example, with more readiness and dexterity than any other. He frequently exchanges them for cattle or for venison with his companions, and he finds at least that he can in this manner get more cattle and venison than if he himself went to the field to catch them. From a regard to his own interest, therefore, the making of bows and arrows grows to be his chief business, and he becomes a sort of armorer. Another Another excels in making the frames and covers of their little huts or movable houses. He is accustomed to be of use in this way to his neighbors, who reward him in the same manner with cattle and with venison, till at last he finds it his interest to dedicate himself entirely to this employment and to become a sort of house carpenter. In the same manner, a third becomes a smith, a, a fourth a tanner, a dresser of hides and skins. The principal part of the produce, a principal part of clothing of savages, and thus the certainty of being able to exchange all that surplus part of the produce of his own labor, which is over and above his own consumption, for such parts of the produce of other men's labor as he may have occasion for, encourages every man to apply himself to a particular occupation and to cultivate and bring to perfection whatever talent or genius he may possess for that particular species of business. So, this is how the differences in talent come to the fore, and it widens by degree till at last the vanity of the philosopher is willing to acknowledge scarce any resemblance. But without the disposition to truck, barter, and exchange, every man must have procured to himself every necessary and conveniency of life which he wanted. All must have held, all must have had the same duties to perform and the same work to do, and there could have been no such difference of employment as could alone give occasion to any great difference of talent. Adam Smith sort of writes about the comparative advantage here, and he writes, and I'm going to read, unlike the animals, men, the most dissimilar genius, are of use to one another, the different producers of their respective talents, by the general disposition to truck, barter, and exchange, being brought, as it were, into a common stock, where every man may purchase whatever part of the produce of other men's talents he has occasion for. So I continue to think about it that the byproduct of self-interest is welfare, that is benevolence. The manufacturers, farmers, service providers are all making things or growing things or providing services for their own self-interest. And in furthering their self-interest or their talents or with their talents, etc., they do a lot of good in society. Uh, it is that is benevolence of welfare. It is benevolence of welfare, but that follows self interest of the human beings, of the human species, as we can say. So after reading The Wealth of Nations, I feel uh, that welfare or benevolence was never far from his mind, from Adam Smith's mind. He talks about wealth, sure, but a generation of wealth by the people who are making their living, pursuing different careers, uh, while doing so, they like it or not, they generate benevolence, they generate welfare. So I wonder why his definition was criticized and put into a watertight compartment and said it was only pertaining to wealth. I see nothing of that sort. Only wealth and not welfare. All the while he's talking about benevolence. He's talking about welfare. And the welfare that is generated comes from self interest. Anything which a human being does is for the self interest. That's what I gathered, and I found it very interesting, an eye opener to me, sort of. Uh, and he also, while we did division of labor or whatever, like even the innovations that are taking place are because of certain self interest. There's certain innate uh, nature in a human being to be well known or to make a difference to society or whatever. So that's how innovations are brought about. We can trace it to self interest, sort of. Read for yourself and find out uh, what I mean. Even today, if you even look at, let's just say, public private, let's just put private. If you're taking the private individuals or the private firms, if they're doing, let's see, as corporate social responsibility concept that has come up, CSR, why do they do it? I mean, even that is self-interest, to let the world know that it is done by a particular firm. These are the, or if anybody is taking up any goodness, any firm for that matter, or any individuals who puts a name, or any non-profit NGO, non-governmental organization, they put a name to it, that means there is some self-interest in it, even to be known as a great, benefactor. Even if you're talking about, let's just take uh, the government, or um, private and the public. So if you just take up any welfare measures that are taken by the state, and if it is like, if it's a democracy or whatever, they have their own axe to grind. They want the people to know that this is a particular party who believes in this, and this is a sort of a subsidy or help that has been given to the people, and it is they who, and they make sure that you learn who's given it, what it is. So I mean, I found this book to be really good. I mean, I have read The Wealth of Nations before, but this time I sort of took time, and I felt that what Adam Smith's underlying thought is that of self interest. It's a self interest which brings about, which generates wealth. It is the wealth of nations, which is brought about by self interest. And human beings are so self centered, that is for sure. But I mean, for you to read, for you to comment, just go through the book. It's really a wonderful piece of thought, I must say. Happy reading.